Good evening, everyone. My name is Keisha Jokes. I am a Foreign Service Officer attached to the Diaspora unit. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to allow a few others to join, and then we'll start. Thank you so much for your patience.
Whilst there's some quietness, maybe you should introduce some of the players in the system.
Yes, say what
Okay, we'll start now. Heads and acting heads of Guyana's missions overseas, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the diaspora. We're so grateful to have you joining us for day 2 of the investment webinar series. As usual, we just ask that you keep your mics muted until we get to the question and answer segment. This evening, we will have presentations from Go Invest and GRA. Go Invest is the Guyana Office for Investment, and GRA, Guyana Revenue Authority. We'll have presentations from Mr. Samora Watkins, Mr. Narayan Singh. After that, we'll have a segment for your questions and answers. We'll go into detail so you can get some background into who Mr. Watkins and Mr. Singh are before their presentations. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the head of the Diaspora Unit, Ms. Rosalinda Rasul, for some remarks.
Very well. Thank you very much, Keisha, and heads of missions, members of the board, gentlemen of the diaspora. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you to the Diaspora Unit investment series or webinar series. I am very grateful that you have taken your time out to be here. Now, these series or the webinars are as a result of numerous engagement with members of the diaspora. We've heard some of the frustrations and the concerns that Guyanese abroad have encountered from time to time when dealing with different agencies that are critical to investment in Guyana. So one of the things we've decided to do as an initiative to strengthen that engagement with the diaspora, and at the same time to improve systems and procedures in Guyana as it relates to different agents, make the process smoother, less frustrated, and to be more productive. We thought that the first thing to do is to have a dialogue between these agencies and members of the diaspora. So you will find that these webinars will be very resourceful for the kinds of information you perhaps were seeking over perhaps many years and could not have. And we hope that in the engagement, you will hear from the heads of these organizations what their systems and processes are, and what are some of the challenges they also encountered from persons to engage them one way or the other. And at the same time, it allows for the heads of the agencies to hear from the diaspora what their experiences are like, and therefore they can go back to the drawing board with their organizations and management team to say, well, these are some of the concerns we have heard from the public or from persons that we served, and therefore we need to improve in some areas. So we trust that this afternoon's or this evening's webinar will be highly successful. You've got two exciting agencies to make presentation: the Guyana Office for Investment, one of the most crucial agencies, as a matter of fact, and the Guyana Revenue Authority. So I'm not going to be longer than this because I know they have a lot of content that they want to share with you. And of course, we want to allow for as much interaction between members of the DAS. I'll be here throughout the evening with you, and we'll be on listening at the same time as to how this webinar series proceeds. So thank you so much, and to have a productive evening of engagement.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rasul. We'd like to now turn the floor over to Mr. Watkins. Mr. Watkins is the Director of Investment at Go Invest. According to his bio, he is a young and vibrant professional with 10 years of experience in the corporate world. He completed his bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Guyana and is currently an MBA candidate with the Commonwealth of Learning. He currently holds the position of Director of Investment at the Guyana Office for Investment, in which he leads and supports national efforts in both foreign direct investment, local content investment, exports, and investment strategies on the national level. Mr. Watkins, we welcome you to this session and we hand the floor over to you.
All right. Pleasant good evening to all. Thank you for the introduction. I must say I'm grateful to be here. I welcome the diaspora and everyone who is participating. Any other persons I may miss, I hope my protocols are observed. Some just a little change to the bio. I already finished the MBA, so that needs a bit of updating. So just want to bring that to your attention. I've prepared us a presentation. I think I have to share my screen, or the host has to allow me to share the screen.
You should have those permissions.
Is everyone seeing it?
Yeah, we can't see you. No, I can't see you. I hear you.
Yeah, well, I don't have a camera.
Oh.
But I will share the screen.
Okay. Well, proof of life. You need to know it's you, not a robot. Come on now.
No, it's not a robot. I'm very handsome. But
I know.
But the computer system, the company's computer system, don't have a camera. It's a laptop. So to share the screen.
Well, we can't see your screen either.
Is it up yet?
Yes,
Yes, it is.
it's up.
It is. I can see
More.
it.
We can see the presentation.
Yep, there it is.
Rescue effort from the Thai Navy SEALs. It's incredible. So
Okay. All right. So the Ghana Office for Investment, as a lot of us know and some that don't know, I think from my perspective is that, you know, it's an agency whereby a lot of benefits when it comes to investment can be realized. But I think we have to spend more time sensitizing the diaspora, the country, and the international world as we go by. This is my presentation overview. I'll say about a small bit about Go Invest, our responsibilities, the services we offer, the priority sectors for investing in Ghana, starting a business in Ghana, information required for Go Invest. I'm going to talk a bit about the fiscal incentives and the type of incentives, and the process, our application process, so that you know, persons who looking to invest from this group here or who is going to share it with their colleagues, etc., can get a head start as they decide to come to Ghana. So these are our responsibilities here. We are an investment promotion agency and facilitation agency. And we also do export promotion from internal, as in we would want to promote our local products as much as possible and get manufacturers and suppliers of products to reach to a level so that we can compete internationally. And we also do policy advocacy, which is, you know, there's a number of policies that may be applicable in Ghana's case to companies coming into Ghana that they are not familiar with. And we will, you know, try to sort out those between the investors, the clients, and the government, and whoever other policy regulating bodies. So these are some of the services Go Invest offer. We treat both local and foreign investors the same way. There's no segregation, there's no difference, there's no special incentive for one or none. We treat both of them the same way. So there's equal treatment for both. So we provide assistance to both local and foreign in the same way. Likewise, we process for incentives, we recommend for incentives. We also, when international companies or foreign companies come into Ghana to register and set up, we would work, you know, make recommendations to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on their behalf so that their staff and expats can receive work permits and visa. There's technical and other advice on doing business in Ghana that our investment officers at Go Invest would do on a daily basis. There's export assistance. We do a number of export seminars across the country. And we also take local products and local manufacturers with us to outward and inward missions to display their products, and also for them to look for partners and also buyers for their products. Inward and outward missions, right now due to COVID, from last year to now, that has been really slow, but we always try to coordinate with our sister agencies for each country to facilitate us and coordinate with them to bring inward missions or do outward missions to each country. So we take a group of interested investors in Guyana for a specific sector, and we will go to countries to meet with all investment bodies, whether it be government official or companies or interested investors. So we would coordinate that from both sides, whether it be from Guyana side or from the international side coming in. We also liaison with a number of key agencies in Guyana that is responsible for a number of permits, licensing, and policy when it comes to starting a business in Guyana. The main one, as you can see, it's at the top there, is the Guyana Revenue Authority. We'll get into that as we go down. The Guyana Lands and Surveys, that is also a key agency, especially for the agriculture sector. They are the custodian of large lands, likewise agricultural land, and different other types of land that might be required for investment. The number of you coming into Ghana to do large scale agriculture, you'll need the land. So we would coordinate with Lands and Survey on behalf of the investor to access these lands. Or if, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture would put out some sort of EOI for the interest in soybean or some type of product on these things, and they say, listen, these are the lands identified to carry out such projects or investment interests, we would, do our checks, our search, contact our sister agencies in across countries to bring investors along that line, or develop a local person to reach that level. So, are you still hearing me? Hello?
Yes, I am.
Yes,
Yeah, because
we can hear you.
I just saw something said I was muted. Yeah, sorry. So we are the intermediary body between such agencies. It's a forestry commission for companies who want to come into Ghana to look into forest type projects, export of lumber and these things. We coordinate with them also. Is the EPA a main one who protects our environment? We have to work closely with them to ensure that all these systems and policies are in synchronization to what we are doing. Also, there's the Ministry of Communities. We look at the Ministry of Tourism. We partner with the private sector. There's a number of projects that we do with the private sector. For example, just recently, we would have attended the world's the largest island gas technology conference. And we did that in collaboration with our private sector here to go to that conference and create so much business activity and interest for Guyana and brought that back here. A number of companies assigned joint ventures and partnered with a number of international oil companies to come back into Guyana. And all this will lead to developing Guyana. So this is how key, this is how important it is to invest for us as an agency working in collaboration with each and every of these other bodies here. The Bureau of Statistics, we provide information to them. The Forest Product and Marketing Council, we also work very closely with the Guyana Manufacturing and Service Association. So these are just a number of key agencies that we have to go through to ensure that the investor is in line with their policies as it relates to each sector requirement. So we have a few current priority sectors that we work with. There's agro-processing and agriculture, light manufacturing, services, tourism, energy, mining, forestry, information, communication, technology. Agriculture is very self-explanatory in terms it is always been a priority sector for Guyana. Agriculture has always been the backbone of Guyana's economy. One of the things that always blew around in Guyana is that Guyana can become the breadbasket of the Caribbean. So agriculture has always been high on our priority sector. So any agricultural projects that are coming into Guyana, we work very diligently and meticulously to get that up and running. Light manufacturing, this has been a sector that has been shown significant growth, especially with the new vision by this government that energy cost is about to be reduced over the next 5 years. We are looking to establish free zones. We're looking to establish hubs for manufacturing in different areas, whereby we are looking to attract large manufacturers into Guyana to manufacture products here. Also to take our local products here, to turn them into tertiary products, also develop our local manufacturing sectors also. We are key into the service sector now. Previously, a number of services benefiting from Go Invest incentives regime has not been so, let's say, high on our agenda, but with the growth of the industry now and the growth of, we have to start including service. Hello? Hello? Oh. We have started moving into new services and bringing them into policy and recommending for benefits for them to develop this sector. Tourism, as we know, as the country develops and the boost in the island gas sector has brought a large influx of expats visitors, all these things to Guyana. So that sector will exponentially grow intrinsically. The energy sector, well, that is one speaks for itself. We have always been a mining, sector. Always been heavy in our mining. A lot of new companies are coming in for the extractive sectors. For example, we have been signing new quarry and extractive types projects. And this also attracts large benefits and incentives concessions. Information technology and communication, this is very key in Guyana because this sector provides the most jobs for young generation graduating from university or graduating from high school. These are stepping stone jobs that create in a large number office processing, business processing, outsourcing also. If just recently we have facilitated the signing of a new call center in Linden, which will provide 250 jobs for Linden. So companies doing such will also benefit from this type of business setup. There's some new priority sectors. Investment strategies we have been rolling out recently will focus on a number of sectors. These sectors are yet to be determined. However, we continue to still focus heavily on agriculture or forestry and tourism. So we are trying to get to the niche markets of these sectors, which we will consider and push faster to develop new interests into similar products that fall, or similar services and other products that fall under these same sectors that we had from before. That was not really benefiting. Now people are showing great interest in. So to start a business in Guyana is very easy. If you are an overseas person, the first thing you do, you try to obtain a visa and a work permit. You will send that application to us, or you will send an email out reaching out to one of our investment officers, and then we will guide you in the process on how to go about getting the work permit. If you're here, the first thing we advise you to do is get a business registration, whether it be a business names registration or an incorporation. Right, so there's two types we do in Guyana. It's the incorporation, whereby we would recommend, or it's known that you do this application through the help of an attorney. Then we get a TIN number. We advise the client or the investor to deal with GRA to get a TIN number for the business. We register for VAT if the business is projected to earn over the threshold. And then we also recommend that they register with NIS, the National Insurance Scheme, so that they meet our statutory requirements. So information required by Go Invest when you're making an application for fiscal concessions. The first thing we ask for is a cover letter making reference to your application for exemptions. We need a business plan from you. We also, just like I mentioned earlier, with the business registration and incorporation document, that forms a key component of our application process. A GRA compliance, a taxpayer's identification number. Go Invest has an expression of interest form that you fill out. Evidence and ability to fund your project, because a lot of times people come with project ideas and don't have the funds. So we want to be able to know that you are serious as an investor. Also, most obviously, you must have a property or a land to operate, or probably some sort of partnership, etc., so that you can operate from. So the incentives offered by Go Invest, we recommend for you, are general incentives, sector incentives, and also special incentives. Incentives, these are the general incentives that any foreign or local person can get from Guyana. There are no foreign exchange controls, unlimited carryover tax losses from previous years, accelerated depreciation on machinery and equipment for tax purposes, benefit of double taxation treaties with countries such as UK, Canada, and the USA, Kuwait, and the Caribbean. Sector-specific general incentives are, you get the waivers of custom duties, value-added taxes, and also the exemption of excise tax on machinery and equipment, some types of vehicles, depending as it specifies to your project. Also, for aircrafts, for people in the aircraft industry, you get the zero-rated duties on those aircraft once you have meet the requirements of the Civil Aviation Authority. There's also tax exemptions in the energy sector for key areas, for example, fuels and lubricant, etc. But this is done also through an approved investment agreement. All these processes that I'm going through actually happens when an investment agreement is recommended by Go Invest through to the Guyana Revenue Authority, then to the Minister of Finance. There's a special incentives, for example, corporate income tax. This is applicable to pioneering projects. When we say pioneering projects, it's projects that are coming to Guyana, which is new to Guyana completely. So they can benefit from a corporate income tax holiday for spanning a period of 5 years. So that way you can be able to make back your profit, pay back your investment costs, and also your investors whom are partners, and then be able to become profitable and pay your taxes as you go by. So all these are support that you can access through Go Invest. There's also special geographic incentives that are applicable to some investors in these specific regions: Region 1, Region 7, Region 8, Region 9, Region 10. This is just a map showing our areas, specified areas. So there's a investment on exports, incentives on exports. And your total sales, if you have 10% to 20% of your total sales, we also recommend that you can also get a profit deductible from your income tax of 25%. So the more you increase your total sales and on your total exports, the more export profit deductible from your income tax becomes a benefit to you. Applying for fiscal concessions through Go Invest, there's a simple process. I outlined in the following slide. I will go through the checklist in detail, but these are a few areas that is applicable, but it's found on our website. So it's a proposal, then we do the processing of the investment agreement, which goes through a due diligence process that includes GRA and the Ministry of Finance. So we have a basic checklist. It might sound like a lot of documents, but these documents are applicable for an investor to have. It's not that difficult once you plan your process. And also it's for us to be able to have a documentation, a paper trail, and also monitor and do our checks and balances when the taxpayers' dollars are being granted for concessions to investors. So we need a business registration, whether it be an incorporation or business names. Also, we right now, also to meet our local content demand, we also push a lot of foreign direct investors to do joint ventures and partnership with Guyanese, so that our Guyanese company can benefit from not only just job creation, but as partners and as owners of businesses coming into Guyana. We require a GRA of a TIN certificate, NIS and NIS compliance, GRA compliance also. Like I mentioned earlier, if it's going to exceed our threshold, we ask for a registration of VAT also. We need a lease or transport evidence. Any permits that require, if the business might require EPA permit, we need to see the application. We also, Go Invest will also follow up with our committee with the EPA to ensure that the permit is being processed. If the items being brought into the country requires food and drug license, or excuse me, or if the items being exported needs food and drug licenses, we also would work to get that facilitated for the companies. If they need, for the use of the land, if it requires an NDC permit, we also would work with the NDC. CHMPA, Central Housing and Planning, they are also a custodian of lands in Guyana, especially for commercial and industrial uses. We would also work very closely with CHMPA because we know how important is the need for land for the development of businesses in Guyana. So we have always had a close working relationship with Central Housing and Planning to facilitate investors to be able to access commercial and industrial land to set up factories, sawmill, rice mill, etc. In your business plan, we also ask you to include the list of capital items, capital machinery and equipment you are asking for waivers of duties and taxes on. Also in that business plan, we also ask you to give us a 5-year cash flow projection. In addition to that, GoInvest has a expression of interest form, which can be found on our website, which is a synopsis of the business plan from GoInvest or from you, and then it's signed at the bottom. So this kind of ties you a bit to your business plan that you're submitting to GoInvest. Overseas tax returns, this is a new aspect we're trying to put in place due to a number of hurdles we've run into recently when it comes to source of funding and legitimacy of funding being used for development of business. We also ask for a copy of your identification biodata page. This is for foreign persons mostly. And also, we also would ask for the bank statement, a loan agreement, or a cash flow statement from a certified accounting agency. If you're overseas, that you're saying that you're using funds from your business to transfer it into another business into Guyana. Right. So these are just repeating a few things. If you're accessing a bank loan, we will need a copy of that. If you're using your equity, we would look at the valuation of those things. If you're using your personal savings, we would require some bit of a bank statement can work, but we know that is technical information. However, GoInvest has signed, each officer at GoInvest has signed a confidentiality agreement, which limits us to doing GoInvest work and only GoInvest work, and information should not be shared. So these are just continued other forms of evidence of source of funding that you can use. If you're getting a loan from a friend, we ask for that loan agreement, and also the evidence from your friend and his ability to fund your project. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. I don't know if this is the question and answers part, so I'm here to take any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Watkins, for your presentation. Unfortunately, while I'm seeing the influx of questions in the chat box, this is not the question and answer segment. So we're just going to ask everyone for a bit of patience. We're going to have a quick presentation from Mr. Narayan Singh from GRA. Mr. Singh currently serves as the Manager of Tax Exemptions Processing and Verification Division. He previously worked in the task force, customs, excise, and trade operations. He has over 21 years of experience with GRA. And most recently, he served as the group leader in the Law Enforcement and Investigation Division. Mr. Singh, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. My presentation tonight will be brief. I would just like to reiterate a few points made by my colleague, Mr. Watkins. Just to add, with the current dispensation, investors are urged to process an investment agreement so that they can benefit from fiscal concessions on machinery, equipment, and so forth. However, due to some legislative changes, the GRA has provisions now whereby exemptions can be granted on such machinery, equipment, and so forth outside of an investment agreement under the agro-processing sector, the manufacturing sector, mining, forestry, construction, fishing industry, just to name a few. Of course, all these concessions are granted in keeping with the provisions of the Customs Act, VAT Act, and Excise Tax Act. We have also worked on the service that we offer, recognizing that many a times persons want their goods to be cleared expeditiously, and in an effort to avoid delays, the GRA has introduced the IMD facility, whereby your goods can be cleared pending the processing of documents once a reasonable case is put forward to the comptroller. Overall, our objective is to provide an efficient service to all our taxpayers and try to remove red tapes where possible. I would like to thank my colleague Mr. Watkins because the Guyana Office for Investment is the very first step towards obtaining an investment agreement. Our role at the GRA is secondary, and the verification that is carried out there before the investment agreement actually is sent for final approval in some cases are normally minimal because due diligence is exercised upfront, and rare cases with existence, I took over the department again that we need to do secondary, we would need to do secondary verification or any such to obtain additional information. I would like to hear, I would like to hear from you guys, like the questions you have, and to the best of my ability, try to answer tonight because it's more about you guys, what you want to do, what you want to come and invest here, and not just us telling you this is the law, this is what it says. We want to hear from you so that we can engage and provide you with the best possible answers so that when that time arrives, everybody, you have a fair idea of what needs to be done, how it can be done, and what to expect basically. Thank you. And I will try to answer whatever questions you guys have to the best of my ability here tonight.
Okay, Mr. Rupnarayan. My name is Vishnu Mahadio.
Sorry, Mr. Mahadio, 1 second. We're gonna make sure that we use the raise hand feature because we know that there are so many questions. I see that Mr. David Clark had his raise hand up for the longest, so we're gonna start with him, but just please ensure that you guys use the raise hand feature on Zoom and we'll get to you. We know that there are a lot of questions. We're seeing a lot of questions in the chat. Mr. Watkins and Mr. Singh, if you want to take a quick chance to glance at those so that you're prepared to answer the questions that are coming. So Mr. Clark, we're going to start with you and then we'll move on. Thank you. Mr. Clark, if we're not hearing you, so we'll move on to Mr. Bernard Rollins. Please unmute your mic.
Yes, good evening, ma'am, and good evening to the diaspora, the Guyanese in the diaspora. And with all protocols observed, I would like to thank you for this session that you have in place, trying to reach out to Guyanese. I have a three-part question. And my concern is, the first question is, with investment, with the request for investment in Guyana by Guyanese overseas, what is the government, or everything is being government driven. What does the government intend to do with enhancing the telecommunication system, which is the carrier for all goods and services that will move, for all intended purposes, the information that will move the goods and services, the activity that deals with goods and services from Guyana or back and forth from America or elsewhere. How does the government intend to I would say, quantitate and enhance the telecommunication system, which is more, I mean, we can communicate, yes, here, I don't know what they do. I used to work with telecoms, but the quality of telecommunication services, which falls under communication, if you have a system and there is poor communication, then businesses tend to fail. And if a man have a business, for example, in a place like, let us say, Pudroin or Ithaca or elsewhere, or somewhere in some remote area, how would businesses be successful if the telecommunication system continues to behave the way it's behaving for people who are going to invest millions of dollars into Guyana? My other question is, for anyone to invest, there has to be a balance, or there have to be a clear understanding of the level of security and the comfort in the political system in which he or she wants to invest in. I would like to ask the question, with this new administration in place, how do you intend to address your security system when we are reading over here, a man is being killed for a gold chain? It's a serious question, because for someone to invest, he or she wants to know that his life is safe and not to go home to be killed just because he drives some truck or got a big investment going. So those two questions I would like to be answered. And the last question is about education. If someone's coming to invest into an environment, he would expect that the locals will be given an opportunity to be a part of his investment, whether it's service or driving or what the case is. I mean, on all wrong basis, the locals are expected to engage the diaspora when they come home, because we want to know that they also enjoy some of the benefits of the investment. What is the government intention, or how does the government intend to change the attitude of members of our family across the 10 administrative regions to receive investors who want to come to Guyana? And with that, I say thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rollins, good evening.
Good evening to you, ma'am.
Yes, so my name is Rosalinda. I'm the head of the Diaspora unit here. But before my colleagues from the GRA and Go Invest provide some answers, I just would like to touch briefly on all three of your questions, and they will come in at the necessary time or immediately after me to supplement it based on their experiences from Go Invest as well as GRA. But the reason why I'm coming in there, because the questions you ask are very broad-based, rather than be specific to GRA, which deals with taxation matters and exemption matters. And well, that's all interlinked with investments indeed. And the same goes for Go Invest. Now, reference to your first question, which has to do with the government, how does the government intend to enhance communication system for goods and services? If I may, I just need one little bit of information for you for clarity purposes. Is this in terms of communication with the various agencies at the point of submitting a proposal, or is it just generally in terms of all communication? I just want to get that clear from you.
What I'm driving at is anyone who wants to invest, he or she who lives in another country will want to continue communicating overseas with whether it's the company or his family. What I'm specifically talking about is the standard and the level of telecommunication system that has been delivered locally and internationally. He or she wants to know that he can communicate, because the telecommunication system is being driven by the power system, or what we say the energy supply. If the power and light that you call it, or the energy system that drives the telecommunication system is not balanced with the telecommunication system that is driving the information system, then we have a problem with the person who is investing. So I'm asking, when will the government get it right with the balancing of power, which drives the telecommunication system, and the telecommunication system which drives business?
Okay, so I see where you're coming from there in terms of the power and sustainable telecommunication system in Guyana. Now, you're quite right. There is a concern about it, but as it is right now, the system does not inhibit anyone from communication with family, friends, or investors, whether here in the region or further afield. It has been reliable. However, there would be instances, and these are very few and apart, where there is any sort of general lockdown in any of our energy system that allows for a complete blackout, as they say, of any communication system. We have not had that in recent years. There have been a few very, very small incidents of this happening, but not for any prolonged period. So generally what I'm saying in terms of the current system of telecommunication, there has not been anything in the system or in our country that has hindered anyone from communicating reliably with investors or further afield. Now, can it be improved? Definitely. And I think what's good for Guyana and its agenda is that there's a lot of energy-related products that's slated to come on stream. Once those get on stream and we have that level of supply of reliable power, then obviously it's going to power every single company, not just the telecommunication company, enable them not to be also cost-effective and reliable in the provision of their services. So in just a matter of time, we're going to see a lot, let's say, an explosion of energy producing companies that's going to help supplement the reliability of the telecommunication sector as well as other sectors basically in Guyana. The second question that has to do with the level of, you asked security, the level of security and comfort, basically, how do you intend to address the security system? Now, that is a huge request. We've heard quite a lot of interest and questions on the level of security in Guyana. And again, like every other place, there is room for a lot of improvements. We are looking to engage the security officials, the top officials from the security sector, to improve the system. I'm not saying that we are at the level that the developed world is at when it comes to crime fighting. We do have our challenges, but we are actively looking to improve the systems there. I can't tell you that tomorrow, next month, we're going to improve this to the level of satisfaction that persons would like to see it, but it is a work in progress. I can tell you off the bat, as an example, most recently, you would have heard the president say that he is seeking to engage the diaspora to amass expertise in firefighting. So that's a good start. And the same applies for security. So I can tell you off the bat that it is a work in progress, and there will be more forums for engagement with persons, the general stakeholder in Guyana, as well as persons from the diaspora, as to how we can enhance and improve our security sector so that everyone can feel comfortable. It's not just members of the diaspora, the local persons here as well. So I can assure you, we will have more engagements, and we are actively looking to deal with that. It's a multi-sectoral approach, by the way. And with respect to your...
Excuse me, Ms.
Sorry. Yes.
With respect to the response to the second question, I must inform you that I was a policeman in Guyana. I worked within the crime within CID, and my services was being delivered under Skip Roberts. And as one who worked in the police service, back in the days when we worked in the police, it's a simple issue. The government has got to pay attention to delivering a proper education service to the young people who are now dropping out of school. And if the government can just take one step back and examine the way in which its education system is delivered, then we'll take more young people off the streets and we'll be able to educate them, at least fast track an education system which deals with skills trade and change their behavior. I don't know if you can make a note of that, but we need to open up more skills trade institutions across the country, across the 10 administrative region, to change this crime wave. Why I'm saying this, and please absorb this as it is. The police played a very important part in truancy. And when we know a kid is absent from school, the police and the welfare officer work together to get that kid back into the school system and to make sure he or she is not only on the meaning, but we make sure that he or she becomes, you understand, a subject to be addressed, and to make sure that full attention is being paid to them. Because a lot of kids, because of parents leaving and go elsewhere to look for a job, which is either overseas or probably into the interior, all I'm asking is that we have to address, or the Guyana government has to address, what is called a poor education system as far as concerned the kids dropping out of school because they're not educated on the streets. They join a gang.
So you're quite right. And like I said, there's a multi-sectoral approach to crime fighting. Education is one part of it. Now, truancy is something that needs to be addressed. I can get the statistics to show how the truancy figure goes basically, and then we can address it based from a statistical standpoint. It is a multi-sectoral approach. Currently, I can tell you when it comes to training, TVET or the Board of Industrial Training, even from diaspora engagements and projects, I can tell you that they are specifically targeting communities, not just for crime fighting purposes, but for altogether development of the person, the child, the teenager, the at-risk young people, basically, and even communities that are depressed. So yes, there are projects in the pipeline to deal with young people, to help educate them. Most recently, and this would be just about several weeks ago, I've engaged the minister, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, and we talked about it. And I can assure you that one of the things the minister assured us is a lot of community projects to help develop the young people there that are going to crime fight. But what I would like to do, Mr. Rollins, is I want to get some statistics so we can have more dialogue in terms of school dropouts, in terms of crime fighting, in terms of who's committed, what is over. That way we can have a comprehensive strategy being developed. I can tell you, like I said, there are a lot of projects in the pipeline to address not just the truancy or school dropout, but many others. Even as we speak right now, there is a person from Canada that spoke about or has engaged us as an example to develop a training center for at-risk young people. We're currently engaging 2 other groups to go into specific communities to target those communities where there's a need to engage these young people who are jobless and who needs to be more engaged gainfully and one way or the other. So we can go on this one here, but allow me to get some statistics on it there, and I can get some more authority on the matter, and we can address the crime fighting situation. Like I said, it's a comprehensive multi-sectorial approach. And just let me answer your third question quickly so we can move on to the other question in terms of the attitude, changing the attitude of the locals with respect to investors. Now, again, I'm going to tell you from experience and from our dealings with investors and whether it's from the diaspora or non-diasporans, we have not had any situation that we are aware of where there's been an attitude that turned off an investor. Maybe if there is, I'd like to know of it, but we haven't had any experience of such where an investor was turned off because of the attitude of any of the local, basically. And nobody is actually going to engage in that sort of attitude or behavior, especially when they know that they're the ones who stand to benefit from any project or any investment in Guyana. What you will find right now is anybody who comes in to invest in any project, there's always been a very open and receptive approach to that investor because we understand, one, the positive impact it has on society and the development of every society, the positive impact on a family, the positive impact on communities, and the positive impact on everybody to be able to provide for themselves, basically. So that is not something we're going to want to chase investors away with just with attitude. These are all things that we have not seen in our engagement to date. And if there are any investors on this call who have said that there is any local that have exhibit any sort of attitude or behavior that has literally discouraged them from investing in Guyana, then it is something we will address if we should come into information on that.
Why ask the question? Why I ask you the question, the last question? The simple reason is that the Guyanese who are on this call, on this forum here, we are not foreigners. I had put in my lot leaving Guyana in 1986. And that's something I want to remind Guyanese of. We didn't run away. We did our part. And what I want to say to you is that the Guyanese who have contributed to Guyana's success today should be looked at not as foreigners, should be seen and should be heard and should be respected as Guyanese and not as foreigners.
Because I got you. And now I see where you're coming from. Okay.
No, but let me finish. Because it may sound easy to you, but I'm telling you, we face a very hard time dealing with Guyanese at home.
Mr. Rollins, now you've added a different dimension. Can we come back to you and let's give others a chance to ask their questions, and we'll come back to you. All right?
Thank you.
No problem, Mr. Rollins. So continue, Keisha.
All right. Thank you for that one. We'll move on to Mr. Paul Diaram.
Hi there and good evening. I trust you can hear me. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes.
First of all, let me affairs and Ms. Rasul for putting it since yesterday. I just have a few comments to make, and then I'm going to have a specific question for us. I'm speaking today not as a potential investor. I have here 2019, and since then, through all the processes of all these agencies who are presenting, I've gone through all the processes. And, I do have my own experience, and this would enlighten potential investors, because I'm still going through the hurdles and some of the challenges, which I know the various agencies and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is trying to piece together. Let me just start with a very bold statement that I think, and first of all, let me congratulate Go Invest for doing a fantastic job. I've had a great experience with them. It was very expeditious, but what happens, there seems to be a disconnect between Go Invest and all the other agencies that we are talking about. Because at the end of Go Invest, this is my experience, I don't know if I've handled it wrongly, but at the end of Go Invest, you're done left in a whole open vacuum of space to go through all the challenges, dealing with the central housing and planning, dealing with the EPA and all the other agencies, which takes up time, money, months of work. You left there broke sometimes. Home at least twice or three times this year because I've reached my limit. And if you stay there sitting on people's desks that doesn't move, I've had to escalate my square one. I preamble it into my discussion, and I think opportunity to meet Ms. Rasul in person, who's doing a fantastic job. A lot has really materialized direction since I met her. And she indicated to me that it is in progress to create a one-stop shop, for the want of a better word. I think she has a name for it. It's a one window, where all these agencies that we're talking about, probably, I don't know if it's a building where all of them are being housed. So we don't have to join the lines and go through the processes and wait for months after months before you get to a different agency. I hope that's happening very soon. In fact, just to let you know, I'm still waiting on approvals from the EPA for something as minor that, you know, I can't begin to even describe it. I'm just going to go to my specific question because I know a lot of people have their own comments and questions to make. This question is for Mr. Go Invest. In my IA, I had allocations for various aspects. Just to let you know, for those who are curious to know what I do, I'm a geotechnical engineering consulting firm, which we do state-of-the-art testing like we do here in Toronto. And I in that area, and I've by starting with my local consul general here. So I'm just this question. In that if you have a category that allocates you, let's say, $500,000 for a is that, and being blessed with the opportunity of getting the fiscal break. While we are working in that, more, the demand is of such that you need some additional equipment in that same field. My question to you, sir, do I have to go through back that whole process? Is there a amendment application? Or I heard Mr. GRA, Mr. Singh indicated that that there is some room to extend that without having to go through back the IA with Go Invest. So those are my two specific questions. Again, to all my diaspora colleagues, Guyana is ripe, Guyana is welcoming. There are issues and there are challenges, and we still work in some very archaic environment. That in itself is a challenge to what we're accustomed to. Prepare yourself, brace for it. It's going to be some challenges. I'm still going it through, but all in all, this is new territory for the whole of Guyana, and I think the administration, everybody else, is doing their part, and all the agencies are working to the best of their ability to make this less painful than it was before. Thank you guys again.
All right. I kind of lost a few bit when you were announcing the question because it was breaking up, but I think you asked about, you have an allotment and you may need additional equipment or machinery during the period of that IA.
Yes. That was exactly.
All right. So normally there is a supplemental list that you can provide to us during that period of the IA. For example, if you forgot to put it on the list or you realize the need for these new equipment and machinery after you would have signed your IA. So you can submit to us a supplementary list. Obviously, your NIS compliances are valid for like 3 months and stuff. Those are our requirements. We ask you for a few of those documents. However, when we submit a supplementary list, GRA used to be submitting a whole new supplemental IA. However, the new CEO has taken over. We have reduced the number of those processes in the form of also coordinated with GRA that we are submitting only an addendum kind of list, which is just 1 page, instead of having to go through the preparation of IA and all of those things. GRA would have information, so we won't require that. They will do those checks on their end. Once you provide us with whatever documents you may have in terms of the purchase of those equipment, etc. It's just 1 page we do now with the supplemental list and send it to GRA to be added to your new IA. So that process we won't have to go back to the whole process of doing a new supplemental IA, etc.
Very good, thank you. That a lot of the burden of getting all of that prepared again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was there a
Good evening.
No, that was my main question. It was tied into the you addressed in your answer. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mr. Dairam. How are you? Hello?
Yes, Mr. Singh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. First and foremost, my apologies. If your experience at the GRA was not so wonderful, but I want to believe in the greater part of the last 3 months, that has changed considerably. With respect to your question, if I may add, while you would want these equipment to reflect as part of your investment, as I mentioned in my presentation earlier, there are some provisions whereby capital equipment, machinery can be exempted or zero rated without an investment agreement.
Excellent.
So if per se there is a list of machinery or equipment you have, you can send an email, outlining the specific description, and we can so advise whether you need the investment agreement or they can be exempted on the tariff.
Excellent.
So that will significantly reduce some timeline, and of course it will just aid in your business because all you would have to do is update your asset register, and it's still part of your investment.
That's a very good step to eliminate some of the burdensome challenges. And to say you've been a tremendous asset to the past few months. There have been great reviews, and not only from myself and other people. Things have changed tremendously at a rapid pace. I think your expertise with the investors outside is really, really good.
Thank you very much. We are trying, like I mentioned in my presentation, the overall objective of the GRA is to offer an effective and efficient service to all our taxpayers. And it's a work in progress. And, we want to ensure everybody's satisfied when they leave. and they come back not, they don't have to know somebody to get in or get a service, get what they're asking for. We're trying.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. We'll move on to Mr. David Sukhia.
Thank you very much. I thought the presentations were really good by Mr. Watkins and Mr. Singh, but I've got a couple of questions I want to ask. The first one is that Mr. Watkins made some reference to some free zones, and I'm wondering what exactly are they, and what kind of incentive do you get in investing in these free zones, and in which region do these free zones exist? So that's the first question. The second question, and I'm going to echo a little bit of what Paul said. I've been in Guyana for a long time. I've invested millions of dollars in Guyana. And I got to tell you, prior to COVID, I'm in Guyana every month. And I find dealing with GRA is, it's a better experience going to the dentist. Because when you go to GRA, you have to sit there and you have to wait. It's like a whole day doing nothing, just waiting, right? And I'm glad, because I haven't been to Guyana for the past year because of COVID, but I'm glad that there's some kind of process in place to improve what's going on. But there's one recommendation I want to make. Now, and I know Paul mentioned it about this one-stop shopping, right? In my opinion, when somebody goes to Guyana and start a process of investing and incorporate a company, automatically the VAT, the pay, the TIN, the NIS, and all that sort of stuff should be done automatically. Those things should be filled out. You don't have to go to NIS and wait there for one day, go to VAT, go to here, go to there. Like, it's really a time waster. It's not stuff that we're accustomed to in North America or in Europe. I think, like, these small things make a lot of difference. When you go to Guyana and you spend half the time worrying about administrative stuff, you don't get time to focus on the business, right? And this is what we need to be doing. We need to be putting our brains to making our business work better, right? Rather than dealing with all this admin stuff, right? So I would surely recommend that we focus on this one-stop shopping to make relieve the administrative aspect of doing business in Guyana, right? So those are the comments I want to make, but I'm interested in Mr. Watkins dealing with the free zone. So I'll stop there and give him a chance to answer.
Right. So proposals has been made. There's no creation of any free zones yet. Proposals has been made for the creation of free zone in Region 10. In terms of the manufacturing hubs, with the proposed reduction in energy costs for whales, etc., in the area, with the landing of the gas pipeline. Those are the specific areas there has been outlined that will be the manufacturing hub. Obviously, we're looking to attract companies to come to these specific areas, and the incentives there will be different partnerships in terms of accessing the land. Most obviously, the taxes revisit. There's no specific numbers yet, but special incentives will be developed for those key areas. For example, we would have just recently did our RFQ for hotel rooms, and the special incentives developed for that were 10-year tax holiday break and on cooperation tax, and also withholding tax. So those were special incentives created for that specific project. So things like that we are going to be putting in place. There's no specific numbers as yet, but those are the proposals made.
Thank you. We'll move on to Mr. I just saw the name, Roy Biru.
Good night and greetings from New York. Thank you, everyone who have effort in putting this seminar together for this week. You'll have done a fantastic job. Let me say, Guyana is on the rise, and the people that I have dealt with over the last 6 months have all had a fantastic attitude and a lean forward approach towards helping. So just want to say shout out to you all for doing a great job. My question has to do with someone starting a business in Guyana. As Mr. David Sukhdev just said, the frustration that a expat or someone coming to Guyana from the diaspora to start a business is very dysfunctional. And what he said was right on point, and it's what I have to say. I went to Guyana to start a business. I wasted so much time standing in line. I ran out of time within a week. I had to come back and then never got everything that I needed to get done. Now, the whole process of getting to Guyana in itself, as you all know, can be expensive with hotels, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a way that certain aspects of starting a business can be done remotely or from wherever the individual is anywhere in the world prior to coming to Guyana, completing the application, submitting the application, and perhaps it's just a matter or a function of just coming there, paying whatever fees are required, and moving on?
So before I go, would GRA or Going First want to add anything to this before, or say anything before I proceed to answer that question?
Well,
Online process.
so I want to, I don't know of any online process of submitting applications. We have an online system whereby we receive expression of interest online and then we respond. But in terms of signing documentation and receiving them via email or by e-format, I don't know which agencies are doing that right now. However, I know we've received a number of complaints about the bureaucracy and the time taken to get certain things done as an investor in Guyana. I want to discuss a few things that I think is being put in place of recent because we've had some meetings with some consultants. In terms of the single window initiative that is being developed, also there has been a number of revisits in the systems and requirements for a number of agencies collaboratively. These consultancy are working directly with the Ministry of Finance. I think is Porta, that's the name, but they are looking to eliminate a number of procedures that they see are hindrance to investment process to make it more efficient. So I don't know if you can take over from there.
All right, Mrs. Singh, anything from you before I answer?
Yes, just briefly. I am aware that we would have revised some of our procedures whereby lots of applications and submissions can now be made online. And we also encourage persons, I think the payments can be done with the cards and so forth. So I am aware that the GR is, as I said, the objective is to have an efficient service, and we would have taken some steps to ensure that the submissions can be made electronically and not everything, because with COVID, the situation with COVID, we are also trying to evolve our services. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your answers. Now, I just want to add a little bit to both the answers to Mr. Singh and Mr. Watkins. This is the reason why we're having these webinars and we're having this level of engagement. The Diaspora unit has been aggressively talking to a lot of individuals and a lot of groups, and we want to benefit from their experiences and their backgrounds and their acquired knowledge as to how do we improve system. We know Guyana isn't perfect, our system isn't perfect, but there is an honest and very sincere attempt to change as many systems as possible to make it as close to convenient and world-class. Given the changes that our country is currently undergoing. Yesterday was an interesting bit of information came out, which for me was one of this most significant takeaway. And this was answered by Central Housing and Planning as it relates to what is called the single window project. And in the single window project, what I learned was happening is that the agencies will be talking to each other to see where there are duplications and where is a need to remove those duplications and have one system. As Mr. Sugdio says, when you put something into a system, then it automatically moves down the channel and you get your approvals and you get the necessary supplemental documents like the NIS compliance or the GRA compliance. But of course, it's subject to a lot of discussions going on between these, amongst these agencies, and that was acknowledged yesterday. Now, once they start talking and they come to a definitive process where there will be no duplication and they will look at the time efficiency of a particular proposal going down the line, one of the things that I'm going to talk to them about and bring it to their attention if they haven't done so as yet is indeed, how do you deal with the remote persons from in a remote area? Do they necessarily have to come to Guyana, or can a part of the process be dealt with digitally, and then another part perhaps depends on what has to be dealt with in person. So these are some of the things that they'll have to factor in. I do know that COVID has taught us a very valuable lesson of the importance of having to work remotely, and also the efficiency of having to work remotely. So that's a conversation we're going to take to them so that they can factor that into the discussions. And secondly, apart from understanding the process and fixing the process, comes another part of it, and that is the legislative changes. And as an example, and this is why we include the banks, and the banks are going to be here on Thursday, so make sure you're here on Thursday for the banks. Something as simple as an e-signature cannot be done whether you're in Guyana or you're outside of Guyana, because the legislation does not permit that. And so we'll have to go back to the policymakers now to make the necessary adjustments at the legislative level to allow certain things to get done. It sounds very simple. Indeed, it is simple, but it's not at the implementation. It's not the implementation that's an issue. It's really more, what does the legislation allow? And again, we're looking at this very comprehensively. So this is where the diaspora unit comes in to offer that level of support to both sides, the overseas-based Guyanese that have the interest in Guyana, as well as the agencies that we're working with also to help improve their efficiency. So I think in just a matter of time, you're going to see a lot of these services and processes evolve, where we're going to get to that level that is satisfactory to everyone, every one of the stakeholders.
Thank you, Ms. Russell, for that one. We're going to move on to Ms. Ruchan Williams.
Thank you, Keisha. Good evening, everybody.
Ms. Williams?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
If not, we'll move on to
Hello?
Mr. Joseph Roach.
Yes, we can hear.
Ms. Williams is ready.
We
can hear me?
actually heard her. Yes.
Yeah, it's breaking
Yes,
up
we
a
can, Ms.
little bit.
Williams.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Thanks again for hosting us this evening. And so far, I am learning quite a bit. The first question to Mr. Watkins from Go Invest. Mr. Watkins, a small investor like myself who is interested in a mixed type of farm as a business, am I talking to the right people at Go Invest? Because it sounds like your organization deals with big money. And I mean, the things you're requiring sounds like you won't talk to me if I only have $50,000 to invest. You want more than that, or if I only have 10,000 to invest. Is there a minimum that one should say, okay, do I go to invest or don't even bother? Go straight to where? Central housing, go straight to lands, go straight to, because I'm a little bit, there's a little miss for me here, understanding, am I the right person for Go Invest, or am I that's not the place for me. I should be somewhere else. And so that's for Mr. Watkins. And Mr. Narain, if I did start my farm, do I get property insurance, crop insurance? Do I get access to these things to secure my investment? Because with the last flood and these hurricanes and the expectation that the weather is going to get worse, losing their whole life savings. What guarantees am I getting offered here? And one more thing, Mr. Rollins, I think he left the chat, but he made a point in saying, are you talking to foreigners investing, or are you talking to Guyanese? I know you said you treat us both the same, whether we're local or abroad, but as a returning Guyanese and a Guyanese who decided to look to Guyana and not Ghana for investment, we want to be treated probably a little bit more special, especially when we're coming back home to do grassroots stuff, like, you know, back to the earth, save the planet, those kinds of things. So thank you for that. Sorry it's a little windy, but thank you.
Well, I should go first. Obviously, the question directed at Go Invest is first. Go Invest is a main interface between investors and the government, and also we provide all those services as I outlined earlier. In terms of a minimum investment, I don't know for sure. I haven't seen it in any of Go Invest Act, etc., to say that this is a benchmark investment figure that you should only come to Go Invest for, but we try not to turn away any investor. We try to help as best as possible as we can. In terms of the requirements and on our list there, if you're a small business owner and if you are, let's say you're applying for lands from the central housing and planning to do a commercial type business or an industrial type business, those land prices are 115,000 US per acre. So if you're a small business owner, well, obviously you can't afford that. But it's not me turning you away, but that's the price. If you are also a small business owner, you're looking for concessions on some equipment and machinery that you want to bring into Guyana that you already purchased, those things we also would process and send to GRA to, you know, review and give their approval. We try our best to support every investor. There's like I said, I don't know of any minimum investment, but we try to see if it fits what we can process and what we can recommend. If most times small businesses think Go Invest is a lending agency, they come to us asking for funds. We are not. There's a small business bureau that looks into small businesses to give grants and funds, etc. We are only a facilitation agency to help you through the process of setting up a business, making recommendations for you to benefit from duty-free concessions so that help you to develop from one stage to the other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams, I think you are breaking up a bit. I think I heard you asking about crop insurance.
And property insurance, yes.
All right. At the Revenue Authority, my specific area that deals with investment would be, we're looking at tax concessions, and those are based on eligibility, of course. Relative to the crop insurance and whether there will be any incentives if there are floods or natural disasters, those are decisions of the policymakers and not the GRA. Right? In the most respectful way, ma'am.
Thank you.
In addition to that, as I would have been mentioning throughout my presentation, if it is that your business that you would want to invest in, and you're importing for the agriculture sector, there are some concessions you can access without Go Invest, where you can acquire your machinery tax exempted and so forth. All right. So we're here, as Mr. Watkins and everybody was saying, we're here to assist whatever way possible that we can. We're here to assist. Once it's within the confines of the law, of course.
And if I may add, Ms. Williams, tomorrow we're going to have the Chief Technical Officer from the Ministry of Agriculture. I've been mentioned to him about your interest in agriculture and your projects, so I would like for you to engage him directly when he comes to the webinar tomorrow evening.
Thank you, everyone. I'm seeing the camaraderie in the chat. We're going to get to those.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to move on to Mr. Joseph Roach.
Once again, good evening. I spoke briefly yesterday on a suggestion to the Diaspora unit. One of the things, as you know, or maybe don't, just retired after 28 years with the state of Connecticut Department of Corrections. I was a manager there. one of the things is that although there was a lot of money, there was a lot of bureaucracy, and there's never enough money. And my prior experience in the military taught me you always have to improvise. You always have to come up with ways. If you don't have any money, how could you do a process better? One of the things, just going through this, if you recall from yesterday, I spoke about the passport. If you go to Guyana and get in the line, it's a longer process. I took the step of doing it by mail through the embassy because they had the directions, and it worked perfectly. One of the suggestions I would give is that a lot of the forms that are from GRA to DCRA, it's already there. They should come up with a process where those forms can, we could go online, get those forms, process them in the United States, France, wherever you are located, get them notarized, because you have to make sure that it's the same person, and route it through either the embassy. Of course, I don't know if they would be appreciative of that, add work to them, some kind of process that you would be able to file for a business, register a business, and send it to the embassy, and they forward it to the appropriate agency to have the finalized process, and then you get an announcement back, or at least have it already processed, so when you do fly to Guyana, you could go there now and everything's there. It should have a checklist of, you need the following. We'll call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need it notarized, you need everything that you need. In a sense, like how the banks do it if you're going to open up a bank account. On their sites, it breaks down every single thing that you need to bring to them, to sit down with them. So ahead of time, you have everything. So that's just one of those things that, and I don't think, besides adding some work to the embassy, I don't think that would be a major a burden on the system as a whole. But until the one window process is done and the electronic aspect, I think that could get the process moving faster. So once again, you process most of your paperwork here, you put it together, you get it notarized, you send it to contact at the embassy, and they now process it and forward it. Basically, just like how they do the passports. And if we could do with passports, which is somebody's identity and stuff like that, we could do it with other things. I mean, you could mandate that they have to have a picture or something showing who they are, you know, their passport picture or something. So somebody isn't making up companies just out of the whim. But that's just a suggestion for the Diaspora, if they could pass that on. Thank you.
Mr. Roche, thank you for that suggestion. I know I'm taking notes, and I know Mr. Su is making note of that. We're going to now move on to, I'm so sorry, I just lost you, Mr. Vishnu Mahadia. And then we'll move into that.
Well, Keisha, thank you very much for this opportunity. I actually have something that is somewhat global in this outlook, in that the sugar industry in Guyana allocates all its quota to just one company that is not even part of the diaspora. If they want to grow the diaspora market, why isn't Gaisuco allocating its quota to the diaspora companies so they can grow their capacity here in the United States? In addition to that, we in the diaspora, when we buy the sugar from Gaisuco, we pay premium price, and in the meanwhile, the other company pay below the market price. So it is not healthy for the diaspora when it comes to that sugar industry. And for this year, we can't even get 1 ounce of sugar from Guyana. And that is unhealthy for the market. In addition to that, my second area of concern, if you put the proposal in to go invest or to the Minister of Agriculture or to any of the other entity, doesn't it behoove them to give you a response to let us know where they stand or what else is needed? I thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mahadio, unfortunately, I cannot speak for Guy Suku, but I can definitely pass your question on to the company. And based on their response, I can provide you with the feedback on it. And we normally do that, actually. Questions that are outside of our remit, we do forward the questions to the necessary persons for an answer. And we will certainly do that for you. And I'm sorry, I missed the latter part of the second question. Are you saying that something about communication? Did I get that correctly? I missed it, forgive me.
When you send in a proposal to any of the department or government agency, does it not behoove them to give you a response or an acknowledgement or to give you feedback? That's
Absolutely.
all I ask.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And that's something that we have also been talking to agency on, and it's very important for customer service. And that's how we see it. It's a customer service. You need to respond and be polite about it and give people updates as to where their application is in the process. If something is missing, be professional enough to call them, and we're talking to them to improve.
Well, I have to give my 2 cents. I donated 100,000 masks to Guyana. And I'm still waiting for acknowledgement from the various entities that I have donated masks and sanitizers to. So there's something wrong with the system.
I understand. And like I said, we are talking to them to do that because we've received some feedback to that effect as well. Communication is critical, and we want to help them understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Mahadio, for that. We're going to turn it over to the chat. There's a question here from A Hunt. If someone has already acquired property and established a company, they already have their identification numbers and everything else that is needed to start the business in Guyana, but cannot get back to Guyana because of COVID, is there a grace period when the expiration of their documents or tax information expires? Mr. Singh or Mr. Watkins, is there any grace being given to persons who have already started the process, but now their documents that they used to start have expired?
Just to add to that, the requirements of documents, especially, let's say an NIS compliance, which is valid for 3 months. If it's expired, recently, investment agreements has not been signed with an expired NIS compliance. The finance minister wants to know that you're compliant, and you know that aspect must be. In terms of other documentation with us, there's some of our documentation, the other types are not expirable type documents. If your application process with us, let's say we respond to you and you're supposed to submit a number of documents to us and you exceed 3 months, we will identify to you or notify you that we're putting your application on hold. And if you do still interested in continue your application, we will require new documents such as you might need an updated compliance or some updated permit, etc. That's from our end. In terms of having a grace period for business registration, I think business names registration has to be renewed on a yearly basis. In corporation, I don't think that happens. In terms of, I can't speak for GRA if they have any requirements that needs to be renewed and if there's a grace period for that. Mr. Singh might contribute on that.
Yes, thank you. It's similar to the NIS compliance. Once our compliances that are issued are expired, we would need to have them renewed. The law, the first schedule dictates that anyone that is to benefit from a concession, they must be tax compliant. So yes, those documents need to be renewed. Secondly, if you're advanced stage and let's say your business is operable and you were granted an exemption already, those letters are usually valid for a period of 3 months. So once those letters expired, it has to be extended. And our process is simple. You can be here, you can be there. It's done automated via Executor. So once the submission is made, we will process accordingly. So yes, there are requirements in terms of expired documents, and there are facilities in place to have them extended. Thank you.
Thank you. Here's another question. Would a Guyanese-based investor in partnership with an overseas funder in a small-scale investment benefit from the same level of tax benefits as the overseas company?
Like I said, we treat both investors the same, and if they're in partnership, and if the overseas company is funding that company, we ask for the agreement between the two as the source of funding. Once we see that agreement, that's their way of raising funds to purchase their equipment or get their business set up and going. There's no restriction, there's no special, or there's no reduction in the concessions granted to them.
Are there any provisions for online companies where the employees and trainees are in Guyana, but the company exists via a website?
Just please go that back for me, please.
Are there any provisions for online companies where the employees and trainees are in Guyana, but the company exists via website, or I guess they mean remotely?
Provisions, as in, I trying to think this one through. I don't know if if their staff and trainees are in Guyana. What kind of service they are providing or something?
Perhaps an online service.
Well, I think there might be reflect
question
towards BPO type of business. I'm not sure.
Perhaps we can have them looked at that and get back to the questioner.
Keep going. One second. I see that Mr. Andy Munsami has a question. Perhaps we'll take his question in the meantime.
Thank you, Keisha, and good evening to the two presenters. I have more so some comments for the representative from the GRA and a couple of questions for the gentleman from Go Invest. My comments for GRA, first, I do want to extend some kudos over the course of the last month or so. I actually had the opportunity to visit the New Amsterdam branch of the GRA to obtain a personal tin. And I was quite impressed with that operation compared to the central location in downtown Georgetown. It was a lot more easy to navigate, likely because of its size. But in terms of the feedback that you were actually seeking at the beginning of the session, I would encourage you and the leadership within the GRA to continue to look at the shift to digitization, as well as removing even the minor, something like that might seem like micromanagement in your procedures and processes would be a huge help. I think back to my second to last trip to Guyana, where if there was a backup system in place, it would have reduced a significant amount of headache. And what I'm referring to is your licensing system at the port of entry at the Chittijigan airport, where as a result of a power outage in downtown Georgetown, I was not able to get a license to be able to drive legally in Guyana. I had to return the following day simply because there was no backup in place. And so by having backups to systems, you can enhance not only overseas-based Guyanese, but local Guyanese experience with your organization. Going back to the New Amsterdam branch, even small steps, as I was paying for my personal TIN number, I had to move from one staff member who were wonderful to deal with, but I had to move from one staff member to pick up a receipt for payment, then move to a different location. As many participants on the webinar have been sharing this evening, centralization, I think, is key. Here in Canada, we have at the federal level what's called Service Canada and at the provincial level, something called Service Ontario, where it's a one-stop service location for the different government services that we might need. And so within these locations, members of the public go up and deal with one individual for payment, for submission of their documentation. And I think if Guyana can adopt that model, that seems to be the consistent theme that participants are sharing tonight. But again, kudos to the staff in New Amsterdam, because that was positive experience. Even the line was much shorter, non-existent. Perhaps I chose the best time of the day to go. So it was a positive experience. Even though there were kind of longer lines in Georgetown, I also have to say that I was very impressed with the COVID checking that was happening there. There were actually 3 different lines in front of your downtown Georgetown building, and the security staff at the front were actually moving through the lines in a fair and equitable manner. There were actually people trying to cut the lines, but they ensured that it was being done in a fair way. So that's my comment. In terms of Go Invest, my question for the gentleman is in terms of statistics for investors. I know there's the Guyana Bureau of Statistics, but actually as I'm searching now, their website is down. I'm wondering if you have any plans to have statistics and data and information that would help in business decision-making processes widely available for potential investors. Similarly, I'm wondering if there are any plans in place, and this might be more of a question for Ms. Rasool, to have a digital forum where potential investors and interested participants may be able to connect outside of Zoom calls like this in a web digital environment in an ongoing manner. Because again, that theme of centralization, digitization of processes, it's recurring over and over again. So that's my question for the gentleman from Go Invest. My kudos for the gentleman from GRA. And actually another question for the gentleman from Go Invest. And you mentioned non-disclosure of proposals. Just wondering if you can kind of elaborate on the mechanisms there, just to ensure that where NDAs might be needed to ensure any kind of lucrative proposals are not leaked. If you can elaborate on kind of those mechanisms, that would be appreciated. But again, kudos and thank you for answering the questions in advance.
All right, to the second question first, in terms of the non-disclosure agreements, every investment officer sign confidentiality agreements as part of their contract. Our information at Go Invest is very sensitive, especially that's why certain data, statistics are not actually published directly from Go Invest. There's information that we share with the Ministry of Finance on a quarterly basis, and those are public knowledge. Then also on a yearly basis, Go Invest do a, I forgot the word. We do a forum or a session whereby we sensitize the public and media and everybody on the numbers that we would have made, in terms of investment executed and investment realized and a number of things. And those total data are actually available to the public, but we don't actually have specific data compiled to give it to an investor. Most time we mainly give it to the government agencies such as the Bureau and also the Bank of Guyana.
All right, and to answer Mr. Munsami's question on the plan to have a sort of a networking for investors and others, yes. Very soon, actually, you're going to see that platform launch because we want members of the diaspora to connect with each other. We think there is more value that will come out of that connection and that networking. So yes, there are plans in the pipeline currently being developed to allow for that level of networking online.
Thank you. We'll take one more from the chat and then one more from the callers or the participants, and then we'll go into the closing. Someone is asking if a company needs land for a lab or training facility or calibration or inspection. After the Land Survey Commission, what role does Go Invest play? It's a longer question. It's the last question in the chat. So it has a couple parts. So what role does Go Invest play if a company needs land? And then the next part asks, if a company is working on a project involving FPSO Destiny, is it exempt from taxes?
All right, so in terms of the role Go Invest play when it comes to land, like I mentioned earlier, the Central Housing and Planning, a number of agencies are custodian of lands. For example, the NISL Corporation has a number of government lands. The Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce have a industrial development body that has industrial lands that they promote, for industrial development. And also Lands and Survey has large lands, for example, agricultural use. And then Central Housing and Planning. The Central Housing and Planning, a number of agencies are custodian of land. Hello? Yeah, Central Housing and Planning also have identified to us over the years commercial and industrial lands for purchase, etc. We would normally do the due diligence process for Central Housing and Planning to recommend for an investor to be able to purchase those lands to start their projects. So that's the role we would play before. However, that arm from us has moved away, and the applications are being sent directly to Central Housing and Planning. Where we come in now is after you will have gotten those land and you required to move to the next stage where you want to bring in laboratory equipment, etc. Then you can apply it for concessions through Go Invest for that. And in terms of if they're asking if taxes are exempted for projects such as on Lisa Destiny FPSO, this question is quite tricky. We've been faced with a number of applications regarding the island gas sector, and I don't want to jump ahead of myself here, but in terms of the production sharing agreement, the provisions for tax exemptions for subcontractors is something that Go Invest is not too privy on. Most times we do our due diligence checks, and we do us recommending tax breaks for them. So I won't jump ahead and say there is tax breaks for companies providing services to the FPSOs. If they fall under the main contractor, there's some provisions under that agreement that allows for the subcontractor to benefit from tax exemptions. But if they're applying for tax exemption directly from Go Invest to supply a service to the main contractor, which the main contractor then charge back Guyana, then that doesn't really make sense. Or if you look at it from an economic perspective, I don't want to say double dipping, but we have to be guided by the Ministry of Natural Resources or GRA on things like that.
Thank you for that. So we will actually take one more before we take our final question. So we'll take a question from Miss Bonita M. I'm not going to butcher your last name, Miss Bonita.
Good evening, Keisha. It's Montague. Hi, Rosalinda. Thanks for this forum, and we're always happy when we can have these types of forum to discuss. As the leader of an NGO, my question is directly for the reps that deals with tax exempt status. Now, many years ago, I've received tax exempt status, or we've received tax exempt status for our organization operating in Guyana. Over the years, it has been a task shipping items, getting things in for the operation. I provide safe space for battered women and psychosocial programs and therapeutic programs for battered children, working closely with CPA, Child Protection Agency. Now, every time you have to do a transaction, even though you would have had to apply for tax exempt status. You had to get that approved from Minister of Finance, who was then Ashley Singh. You had to go through the commissioner, get all of that in place. You still have to apply again. You have to itemize again. You have to put through a long paperwork. You have to wait again through a system before it's approved. And the system, in my view, it's really outdated. So I'm hoping that something can be done where, whether it's our TIN certificate, whether we have to update our status, we have to apply for something else, so that once our number is submitted, our activity or items associated with the activity is clear. For example, you have an activity, let's say, you have a training program at the Pegasus. You have to pay for your event, but the VAT alone on it, it's $1.3 million. Now that can be removed as the non-for-profit organization on the act, but the system does not allow that. So you have to now have an invoice, submit, wait again, have it approved, pass through a system, back and forth, even though you would have gone through all the process of qualifications. I would like to know how that can be addressed. And as it relates to the GRA lines, I recently left the lines there a few weeks ago in preparation for the US. And one of the things, I saw them go to lunch. I was doing an addition and I saw them go to lunch, the staff go to lunch, and I think everybody should have lunch. But they go to lunch, persons were sitting there, people were asking for questions. They were not coming to the counter. And so maybe if they're on lunch, they're not in their seats, so people think they're working. And if they're closed for lunch, if it could be on a rotation basis, so the public can be served, because you will have 4 o'clock coming and the crowds some days are really ridiculous, especially with the COVID guidelines and all the precautions. So I'm hoping that that can speed up, but I know you guys are trying, and thank you.
All right, Ms. Montek, is it? My apologies if I pronounced your name wrong. I thank you for the observation, and of course, I will channel this up to management tomorrow relative to the service. I'm taking that this is on the ground floor, right? You're attempting to do some business?
Well, I am known to be doing businesses on more than one floors, because the tax exempt is on the higher floors, and the
it's on the third floor. That's my floor. So, relative to your question with the NGO, would you mind telling me what is the name of your organization? It's on the ground floor, right?
United Bridge Builders Mission.
Ms. Monte, can you repeat for me, please?
United Bridge Builders Mission. I think we've got systems logged in with that on our administrative interns from in Guyana are actually with that.
So you're telling me, based on what you were saying just now, is that you would have gotten the approval from the Minister of Finance as an NGO or as a charitable organization? For tax purposes, they're different. So that's the reason I'm asking. Hello?
Sorry, I'm talking while mute, sorry. The status says NGO status. That's the document.
NGO.
NGO starters.
Okay, so what I'll do for you in the morning when I go into work, I will confirm this information and I'll provide a feedback to Ms. Rasul via email. Once you're approved as an NGO, the law permits for you to import items for free distribution. That's to the satisfaction of the Commissioner General. I mean, you being in the you being an NGO for some time now, you would be aware of that, right? But in terms of the concessions that are granted, it's done on a case by case basis. Once you are in receipt of the approval, there's no need to go back to the Ministry of Finance. Everything is done at GRA. We have had a change in the operational system where we moved from trips to Asecuta. So now any requests for items coming in would have to be done electronically by a licensed custom broker. I will share my contact details with Ms. Rasul after this meeting so that, in future, if there are any issues you may have, you can contact me directly so that, we can expedite whatever requests you have. I know recently we had some folks all the way from Kakwani when we had the flood and they were in dire need to get their stuff sorted out. We recognize that you're doing a good deed for the less fortunate, and I am totally in support of that. So what I'll try to do is, once you are on that list of approved NGOs, I will share my details so that, if you have any requests for tax exemption on items that are imported, we can have those requests fast tracked.
Thanks ever so much. It sounds like Christmas came already. I'm going to send the documentation to Mr. Rasul tomorrow, so you'll have a copy. I think she has it. She has a copy of my tax exam. I think you have that, Mr. Rasul, so we can move forward. Thank you much.
No problem, ma'am. I'm glad I could have been of help.
All right, and thank you, everyone. As with yesterday, we will send out an email today with presentations, information, contact information, and a reminder about tomorrow's meetings. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Rasul to just close us out. Thank you so much for your patience and your participation.
Thank you very much, Keisha. And I'm seeing a new hand that actually went up there with Mr. Wade. Mr. Wade, I sent you a message and I put my email there. I have noted your concern. And if you email me, I'll deal with your concern tomorrow. So please take note of my email address, which is in the chat box. And,
thank you very much.
Yes, and we have dealt with Bonita Montague and Mr. Dairam. Is your hand still up or you're all good? Just want to make sure we covered everybody.
Yeah, my hands will go down. Let me just remove it. Thank you.
And I suppose Mr. Dairam forgot to put his hand down, but that's all right. Great. So again, everyone, thank you very much. Sorry,
sorry,
I didn't get
just want
that.
to jump in quickly, just to kind of reiterate one point which I've heard earlier. Again, the presentations are really good. I've managed to catch some of it on YouTube before logging in. So, but one of the things some of the other people on the forum had mentioned earlier, and I really, really hope that we could push for it, is automation or digitization, because being overseas is quite hard to go back to Guyana and deal with all the paperwork. And even just for application, if we could have the application process done online and then come to Guyana with ID and sign at that time, that'd be very, very helpful. So especially us here in the UK, who with Guyana being a red list country, we can't fly to Guyana and fly back to the UK with great ease. So if we could fill in applications online, that'd be great. So when we come there, we come with our identification to show who we are and also sign in front of that person. That would help the process a hell of a lot. So again, that's my only input for tonight.
No, that's all right. No, Mr. Kendall, you're on point, and I can assure you that is something that's been seriously considered at all levels, not just from the diaspora as well, but also from the local investors and persons living here. They all want to see that ease and that convenience. And that is why we're having these kind of forums and bringing in the actual agencies to hear just how this can be made better for everyone, basically. But I can assure you that is something very seriously being considered, on all the nuances and all the complexities that are now in our world. Some countries you can't fly to them, pandemic. I'm sure when this pandemic is over, something else is going to come along the way. All right. Just before, but we are working it out. Before I go, and quickly, I see Mr. Dr. Dorga, his hands is up. So Dr. Dorga, if you can quickly say, sure.
Just very quickly, I'm based in Guyana, and I would just want to tell all the people in the diaspora that, welcome to Guyana. It's not as if we in Guyana have it any easier than you. I'm really thankful for the work that Rosalinda is doing at her unit. At least the support and the amount of information you've gotten in just these 2 days is more than, in some cases, local investors would want. I think it's also a numbers game. We have over 1 million first and second generation Guyanese out of Guyana, but they're just about 50 or 60 here on the call. So if you do the statistics, you can also see that some of the interest isn't there as we may have wanted it. But there's a lot of opportunities in Guyana. I would encourage you to make sure that you budget sufficient time for any work that you want to do in Guyana and sufficient cash flow as well. Because on a daily basis, my own entity, we have to support a lot of local and foreign investors. And that is usually the biggest issue. The time that they budgeted wasn't sufficient, and the money that they budgeted wasn't sufficient to get done what they needed to get done in Guyana. However, the companies that are making those investments, they are getting significant rewards. Many of the companies are now finding their way into the oil and gas supply chain, or the indirect supply chain, or the induced type of opportunities that are coming up. So there is business to be done. But please budget for the time and the money that will be needed to get yourself on stream, and be careful as well. It's our fellow Guyanese, but the amount of complaints we get daily of partnerships not working out or word of mouth agreements that fall through, it's really painful. And sometimes it's family members, sometimes it's friends. And when money is involved, please make sure that you have documented agreements with the persons that you get into business with in Guyana and across the world. It's not just a Guyana problem. Could happen anywhere in the world. But Rosalinda, really good, and I look forward to the rest of the sessions. Hopefully I can join more of them. Yes. And we are a developing country. We should also be very careful about trying to solve everything with the people solution and look for system solutions, because the amount of calls I'm sure Rosalinda gets on a daily basis, not just from the oil and gas people, the diaspora people, the local people, everybody who wants our help, it's gonna be who yells the loudest that's gonna get their attention. So I would strongly encourage those in power as well to make sure that they look at fixing the system so that we don't have to ask for favors. Because every time we ask for favors, there's a price to pay for that. And I'm not saying Rosalinda has a price to charge anyone, but what I am saying is that somebody else will not get the help that they need to because they didn't yell as loudly as you did. Right? So thank you very much, Rosalinda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dorga. Much appreciated. And I can tell the diaspora, Dr. Dorga actually is one of the leaders of the private sector company agencies here in Guyana, and has been doing a tremendous job in linking not just locals with other entities, but also with diaspora investors. And actually, I'll put you a notice. We're going to have another set of engagement coming up where the diaspora gets a chance to engage the private sector bodies here in Guyana and the businesses as part of the networking. So the unit has been very strategically planning these webinars and how it moves, basically, because again, I want to endorse completely what Dr. Dorga says. Picking up the phone and calling another agencies and getting the solution done to anybody with a complaint about is not a system, and it's not the solution that we want. We want when you put an application in or you make a request from where it goes through the system and it happens within a specific period of time. So you know exactly what the system is about and when you can expect your answer. And that's exactly what we want to do and why we're having these many webinars, and we're bringing members of the diaspora and the policymakers directly so they can hear, or the heads of agencies that could take it back to their senior management and say, listen, this is what we need to do. It's an easy solution, an easy fix to that. So with that being said, thank you so much for the time being here. And I'm sure you've benefited from quite a lot of the information here. You can expect to see many more engagements, and I can assure you, you're going to see development taking place in the systems and processes that we have here. And tomorrow we've got the Environmental Protection Agency, the Ministry of Local Government, and the Ministry of Agriculture they're going to be on the call tomorrow, and followed by the banking sector. The finance sector is going to be on Thursday, and then the oil and gas sector is going to be featured on the final day. All right, so thank you so much and have a lovely evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. So make sure you tell the others to join the call. It's very productive. All right, take care
Great.
and have a good
Thank
evening,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
God
Thank
bless.
you.
Bye-bye.